Hello, my name is Karen, and welcome back to part 3 of beading a Winter Solstice ornament cover onto a glass float. This is the original pattern beaded on an ornament. It is open on the bottom. With a glass float, there's no hanger to hang it by, and so the bottom has to be closed. So we'd finished that yesterday. We added extra beads and some 8/0 beads along the bottom. And today we are going to do the fun part, which is adding the long dangles that are going to hang off the bottom of the bead, off the bottom of the glass float. So we're going to get started with that. Now what I like to do ahead of time is kind of lay out and decide how I want my dangles to look. So this is kind of the lineup of the decorative part of the dangle. Starting at this end, I like to go with a smaller bead at the top and work my way down to the bigger bead at the bottom. Usually that's a teardrop bead, but my teardrop bead that matches is kind of small, so I thought this would be a fun bead to use at the bottom of the dangle. I call them dangles. I don't know what they're called. So we're also going to use some 11/0 blue seed beads that we've been using already in our pattern. The 11/0 white beads, and we'll be using these bugle beads, and these are white. And of course you can use whatever color of beads that work with your color pattern. So I've already attached a new string, a long one, to up through these beads right here and down through this string of beads and coming out right here in on a corner bead. Our dangles are going to hang on each of these corners with 6 dangles. So let's do that. I'm gonna set my ornament aside for now while I start picking up. And I'm going to start with the blue beads, picking up, and I'm going to continue in the same pattern that we used on the float, just to keep it kind of consistent. So I'm going to do 2 blues, 1 white, 2 blues, and then a white bugle. And we will continue that pattern until we get to the desired length. Before we start adding our decorative elements to the bead. Two blue, 1 white, 2 blue, and a bugle. And I'm just going to continue in that pattern until my desired length, and then these will also add to the length. So it's just up to you how long you want your dangles to be. So far, this is what we have. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the bugles. I think I will go to 8. So that is 8 bugles. I'm going to finish that pattern off with a white and 2 blues just to make it consistent. And then I'm going to start adding my decorative elements down here. So I'm adding a silver acrylic 4mm round, and then a little, and you can use any beads you want. A little blue, another silver. I like to add these pretty different sizes, different shapes of beads. So I've got a silver square bead, a round, a bicone, another round, a pretty round crystal, another silver, and another decorative silver. I just love these little guys. I use them almost in every float. Another silver. I really like this pretty decorative ornament. A silver, our final bead. And see, it doesn't look as long once they're all together. And then for the final bead, I'm going to add one of those white rondelles that we used already in our float for the end of this bead. I might add on a blue one, since those kind of blend together. So I'm going to pick up a blue round 11-0. And I'm just going to kind of hold that and see if I'm happy with that length. So this is the length. I think that'll be good. You can make it longer. So now, to secure these, this is where we use up so much thread because you have to work your thread all the way back up all the beetles that you just added on. So we're going to skip the bottom bead, sew up through the white rondelle, and then back up all the way through all the beads. And don't skip a bead, otherwise it'll make your dangle look wonky. And don't worry about the gap right now. We will fix that when we get all these beads restrung. This will also add strengthen this dangle by sewing back up through all those beads. And get creative. Just use any kind of beads that you want. I've made fish ones before with little fish decorations. I made a red, black, and white one recently that looked like 101 Dalmatians with some very cute little ceramic, I think they were ceramic beads of dogs that were instead of a teardrop, they were dogs that hung off the end. They were so fun, very cute. I got some beads in a pattern that looked like little daggers. I was like, what am I going to do with these? They came in a kit. And when I was making that dog bead pattern ball, I was like, oh, on this part I used them. And it made it look like, you know, those dog collars with the little spikes on them. That's what it reminded me of. So I got to use them in that pattern. It looked very cute. Okay, so I've strung through all of my beads. You're going to push those beads up to the end. Hang on to that last bead and just pull your string. Sorry, this is being more difficult than it usually is. Trying to work left-handed here. I'm not left-handed. You want that to be very tight. So it's connected, pulled all the way up to that. And we came out on this side of this 8/0 bead. I'm going to thread my needle through the other side and then work your beads down to this next bead right there. Bead. Pull that tight. and come out through that bead right here, where the beads come down. If you want to, you can do a slip knot just to keep your beading tight. And we have our first completed dangle. Isn't that pretty? And all those glittery beads, those crystal beads, really catch the light when they're hanging in your window. So that's why I like to use the crystal beads on the dangles. So we're going to continue that and make 6 dangles. You can do them all the same length, or if you would like to stagger them and make them each one a little bit longer, you can do that too. Whatever you want your bead, your float and dangles to look like. So I'll film one more of these dangles, and then you'll just repeat the pattern all the way around. So again, we're going to pick up 2 blue 11-ohs, 1 white 11-oh, 2 blue 11-ohs, and a bugle. And you can use, like I said, whatever color bugle you want to match your beads, and any length. You can use a longer bugle. I usually use a longer bugle, but this was the only length that I had in the white, and I wanted to use white. So just continue that bead pattern. And I think I want my next one to be a little bit longer than the last one. So I'm going to add 9. Continue with my dangle until I have 9 white bugles instead of 8. I have 5 so far. You want to avoid these bugles that look like this, that look like they are cut. That makes for a very sharp edge that could make your string cut loose. So when you come across beads like that, just toss them. You don't want to use them in your beading work. So that's 7. Eight. 9. I'm going to end with my 2 blues, 1 white, and 2 blue pattern. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 white bugles on this. And now we're going to add on our decorative beads. So we're going to do a silver, a little blue crystal, another silver, my little square bead, another silver, a bicone. Whoops, my bicone went falling off. A silver, a round, a silver, probably my favorite beading element, which is like a metal bead, kind of a filler bead. And you also don't have to make your dangles match. If you want them to be, the beads to all be mismatched and mixed up, and hey, it's your float. You can put whatever beads and have fun. Okay, now our final blue bead. Since this pattern's called Winter Solstice, I also thought that this kind of long bead maybe sort of looked like an icicle or something. Not exactly, but yeah, imagination. So slide that blue bead down, go up through the white bead, and thread your needle through all your beads. Just sew all the way up through all the beads. Sorry if I keep getting off camera here. This is a very relaxing pastime. I do a lot of crafting and beading in the evening because it's very stress relief. You can watch YouTube videos while you're beading, or listen to audiobooks, or watch TV, whatever you enjoy doing. Okay, got to do this right-handed. It just works better. You want that to be as tight up there as you can. Okay. We're going to sew back on the right side of that 8L bead that we started with, and then work our needle down to the next. You want to make sure you don't get your, and then pull that tight. Come on. Okay. Come out through that corner bead there. And I'm just going to do another slip knot. Okay. And we have 2 completed dangles. So I'm going to continue this all the way around till I get to 4 more dangles, and then I'll see you at the other end. Okay, so you should have all of your dangles connected. You'll have 6 of these attached to the bottom of your float, and it's going to be very hard to see in the camera, but it's going to look so pretty. And then just tie off your thread wherever you ended, do some little knots and thread it through some more string and tie it off. I probably do too many slip knots just because I don't want my beading to fall apart, so I doubt that it will. There's so much string going through all these beads. So the last part of this is to make a hanger for this float to hang by. So I've attached some more thread. Make sure you have enough thread. Okay. I just wanted my thread to come up through the middle of these 2 Superduos, because then I'm going to end up connecting it on the other side of these Superduos in the middle. So now to start our hanger, we're just going to continue with our bead pattern of 2 blues, 1 white, 2 blues, and a bugle bead. So 2 blues, a white, and these are 11-ohs, 2 blues, and a bugle bead. And we're just going to continue this until we get to the length that we want for our hanger. And you can make that however long or short that you want it to be. I tend to like mine a little longer. So that when they're hanging, they're not hanging too close to the ceiling or wherever you're hanging them from. I'm going to put 10 bugle beads on here. 2 more blues, a white, and 2 more blues. Now I'm going to slip my needle, my thread through this top needle, this top bead, just to make it a little, not a knot, but it just kind of holds the, oops. That wasn't supposed to happen. So I've got 10 bugle beads there. And they just did a little slip to secure this end bead in place. So now I'm going to use one of these beads that I used on the float before. And we're going to go through there. And then we're going to add more, continue our pattern of 2 blues, 1 white, 2 blues, a bugle bead, 2 blues, 1 white, 2 blues. And this is where you're making your loop. It's going to go back down through here. So you're going to have a loop. So I think I'm only going to do 1 bugle bead in there. But I am going to do another set of blue beads. 2 blues, 1 white, and 2 blues on the top. And you can do whatever you want. And that's where your bead is going to hang from. So 2 more blues, a white, 2 blues, and a bugle bead. 2 blues, a white, and 2 blues. Okay, now you're going to sew down through this blue bead, pull your string through, and we have a loop. And that's how it's going to hang. So now we're going to make another string of beads that's going to connect at the same length. It's going to connect on the other side of where we started this, oops, to here, this hanger. So we're going to pick up 2 blues, a white. I don't like that one, it's too little. 2 blues and a bugle bead. And you're going to continue that until you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bugle beads. And remember, this is your project, so you can do your beading pattern on your hanger however you want. And you can use whatever kind of bead right there that you want. I just thought since we'd already used this bead in our pattern that it would match up here too. You want a bead that has a little bit of a bigger hole and kind of a strong bead because you are going to thread two more threads are going to go through this by the time we're done. Okay, so continue. These projects use a lot of thread, so you want to make sure that you have a lot of thread to begin with. And plenty of beads. We use a lot of 11-ohs. To make this pattern. And I will tell you that one of the little tubes, like this size of tube, is not enough 11-ohs. So if you want to use at least 2 of those tubes or use the bigger 5-inch tubes, you will run out of beads. Now these make great gifts for your loved ones. I've given many of them away. I made my sister a sapphire blue one, or a cobalt blue one, because that's her favorite color. I made my mom one with green, light green beads, because that's her favorite. My brother requested a Seattle Seahawks colored float, so I made him one of those. Even beaded little little football shaped bead pattern on it in Seattle Seahawk colors. I think he ended up giving it to his granddaughter for her birthday. I also sell these, so at our bazaars. Like I said, they make great gifts. Now I'm going to just do a sew up through that bottom needle, pull the thread again, just to hold these needles and these beads in place. Okay, so I've got 10 bugle beads. So now we're going to sew through the middle of, right across from there is the middle of this Superduo. And it's probably going to be very difficult. Maybe we'll go the other way. I can see that there's a knot right there. So it doesn't matter which way you go. Oops, where'd my thing go? Okay. So I'm going to try to go this direction. This is just very tight up here, and my hands, doesn't help that my hands are sweaty. Sometimes you just got to get the pliers out. And try to. I can see it coming out through the bottom of one of these beads. So that back, just problem with thread is it likes to get caught on everything. So it came out through this first eight-o. I want to sew through these other beads. Thread that back through to the top. Okay, came out through that. Now I'm going over to this silver round bead. So that is where I'm trying to get to with my needle. And I think the problem is that those round silver beads, I think they're like hollow inside or something, so sometimes the needle gets stuck on the edge of the inside of that bead. Okay. Use your tools if you need to. Okay, so there we are. We're coming out through that top round silver bead, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to make another string of beads, just like this one. Similar. We're not going to make another loop. 1, 2. So 2 blues and a white. Spilled my beads over there. And a bugle. You want 10 bugle beads. Now, I don't know if you all know what a rolling pin float is, but it is kind of shaped sort of like a rolling pin. It's long and got 2 knobs on the end. It's not a round ball like these. I have beaded covers for those. They're harder to find, so I don't have a lot. I think the 2 that I had were, I got from my good friend, when she passed away from cancer, she had them. She wasn't beading her floats, she was painting on them, which is another thing that you could do if you're a painter, is you could paint on your floats. I have a float from a long time ago that a friend of the family painted for me when I think when I graduated from high school. It was a very simple painting with seagulls on it, but I still have it, and I just think it's great. The same lady painted me a picture of tulips, I think, when I had my child she gave a present to my daughter when she was born, and she gave me that painting, which I just love. It's hanging in my bedroom. One more bugle, and then 2 blues, a white, and 2 blues. So you don't have to do this, but it secures those beads, which you could have done that too on your dangles. I just didn't think about it soon enough. This always happens. That just kind of holds those beads in place. So now we have our new string. We are going to sew this. I hope you can see this. We're going to sew this up through this blue bead. Okay? So pull your string through. And then I like to reinforce my hanger because, you know, there's going to be a lot of weight on this hanger. So I like to reinforce it if you have enough thread a couple of times, just so that thread doesn't break from hanging. With all that weight on it. You're just going to sew all the way down and around through the beads on that hanger. And I'm going to go ahead and do it one more time. Just go in under that first bead. So up and all the way around those beads again. Okay. Coming down through that bead. Now we're going to sew through that big accent bead there. Coming out. And now you're going to make another string of beads for this last part of the hanger. And it will be your 2 blues and a white and 2 blues, and work until you have 10 bugle beads. We're almost finished, people. This is the last string of beads, and then our float will be finished. And you can hang it up to enjoy. Or gift it to someone. These are very, I think, relaxing to make. I like to craft in the evening. I work at a police department, and it's a small police department, but it's still stressful. So when I come home from work in the evenings, crafting is just is relaxing, and it's therapeutic. One of the suggested things to do when you have a stressful job is to do something that's relaxing that you enjoy doing. Take up a hobby. I mean, it could be exercise if that's your thing. But for me, it's crafting. And I do beading. I do paper art. I make cards. I have so many crafting. I do some knitting. And I try to paint once in a while. I don't think painting is as relaxing because I'm not a natural artist when it comes to drawing and painting. My daughter, on the other hand, is a natural artist when it comes to drawing. And she doesn't paint very often, but my sister and I decided to, when I was visiting, decided to do a painting tutorial that had a sea turtle in it. And my daughter, who rarely paints, decided that she was going to paint with us. Okay, we have 10 bugle beads. Her painting, she's so natural. Her painting turned out so awesome. It looked exactly like it was supposed to. Plus, she added some elements to it that just made it look more natural. And it was just like, really? Why am I painting? Why am I still trying to paint? My sisters and I, who we paint more often than my daughter ever does, ours didn't look nearly as nice as hers. But she just has that natural talent for art. Okay, so we're done with our last string of beads, and we're going to connect it to this silver ball. Can you see the silver ball in the middle across from where we started this one? And my hands are very sweaty, so I might have to struggle with this a minute. These beads are very tight together. Makes it difficult to feed your needle through. I'm trying to pull them apart or hold them apart, but that's not really helping either. Hopefully yours won't be this difficult. Oh my goodness. Just get in there, bead needle, just feed in there. Let's see if this will help. Using my crafting tweezers for beading. Okay, make sure I don't have my string caught up on anything. That went through the bottom, so I'm just going to, oops, what did I do? Got tangled up somewhere here. My goodness. All right. I want my thread to be coming out the top. So I'm just trying to get my thread back out up here. Okay. This shouldn't be this difficult. Hopefully yours won't be. So now we're just going to try to continue. I'm going to go ahead and do a slip knot here first. Okay. And then if you can, feed your thread through these beads. You just want to tie off your thread. So, might have to get these pliers out again. Of course, we could go down to this one. It would be easier to bead through, I think. Yeah. Make sure you don't get your thread tangled up and everything. Okay. And oh, I wanted to leave my thread on this side, sorry. So we came out through this one, so I'm just gonna work my thread down through here. And I'll do a slip knot here. And you guys just feed your thread however you want through your beads. Just secure it with some knots. And I just like to thread my needle through some beads past the knot a little bit before I cut the string. So that should be plenty of knots. I'm going to cut off my string, melt it with my thread burner. If you don't have a thread burner, no problem, just cut your thread off even with your beadwork, so it's not sticking out. Okay. We have completed our Winter Solstice glass float. And this picture video is not going to do it justice. I'll hang it up and show you how it looks hanging. But that is a completed float project. Okay, everybody, so there is the completed float. I don't have the best backdrop for this, but there's the hanger. There's the float. And then you have your dangles. And that is the completed Winter Solstice glass float cover or decoration. I hope that you have fun making it. And I'd love to see your pictures of your completed glass floats. And again, we started with a pattern for a ornament. So the middle part of the ornament pretty much stayed the same. The bottom we adjusted so we could close in the bottom and change the dangles, and then added a hanger to the top. All right. Thank you for watching and have fun beading.